What's up, guys? Doing a little impromptu. Let's see if we got audio working here. There we go. So, I'm going to be doing weekly reviews on Skeleton Crew. Not that my opinion matters much. Just get my thoughts out there. I like watching Star Wars stuff. They've got me on the hook. I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life. If you watch the last Art House live show, and we talked about it, I kind of fell off on the prequel trilogies, but ever since they came back with sequel trilogies, I've been watching all of the live action stuff. Most of it, I don't know. With Star Wars, you're always going to have cringe. You're always going to have some great moments. It's good with the bad sort of thing. I'm not going to make any balanced jokes there, like the Force and stuff. But when it comes to this series, Skeleton Crew, I feel like this was the Hail Mary pass to get kids hooked on Star Wars, and not just kids. I think it was a Hail Mary pass to get their core audience that is now in their 30s and 40s who have disposable income, in air quotes, back on the Star Wars bandwagon by throwing every nostalgia hook they could at them. And I still stand by that. This episode is kind of furthering a notion I had early on. One of the big challenges that I had with, in particular, the sequel trilogy going into their last movie, I think it was Rise of Skywalker, is that it became the very much a video game mindset of follow the pieces, follow the breadcrumbs. Got to go here to get this, got to go there to get that, do this, and which isn't a terrible way to write. This will be a spoiler heavy review. And when I say spoiler heavy, I'm not going to talk about too much that goes on because there's not a lot that happened, in my opinion, in this episode. Character development, there wasn't a ton. We learn a little bit more about Jude Law's character. And from here, we'll just jump into spoilers. So Jude Law, there's a lot of people speculating, and this is the magical thing about YouTube and the internet, is that there's a speculative. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Let's see. How do I get myself in there too? Hey, there we go. That kind of works. There's this speculation market that happens on YouTube where everyone wants to call the shots first as to what's going to happen, what's going on, what's really, they want to get ahead of the spoilers by being the spoiler, by making their prediction. And there's a lot of people thinking that Jude Law characters was the captain from the very beginning. I have a picture of him saved from last time. No. So there's a lot of speculation that Jude Law was in the very opening shot of Skeleton Crew episode 1. He was the disgraced captain that led everybody on a false mission where they didn't get any booty, any bounty, and now he is helped these kids escape from jail, pirate jail. And there really isn't much development with him either. There's just not much development all the way around. They tried to have this moment where the kids take him back to their ship to escape. And they're like, we're not leaving without Smee or SM-33. And the only reason the kids were attached to that character is because he knew how to operate the ship and where to go, more or less. And some of the characters are rightfully skeptical This girl is a bit skeptical of Jude Law. Visor Girl is also skeptical of Jude Law. She is proving to be the most capable in this whole episode, in this whole franchise so far. But all in all, it's the only thing that they're really cementing with this story is it's crazy that these kids come from this mystical planet that's hidden from everyone, and no one knows where this planet is. And they dig into a little bit of that. It falls into like the Old Republic territory. It certainly seems like, as much as they talk about hyperspace needing to know like exact calculations to go through space without running into something, that inevitably they would find out where this planet is. But we're setting all that aside. There's again with this series, a lot of disbelief has to be suspended, and that's fine, because at its heart, I do think it is going more for a younger audience. And is it for a younger audience? If you're an 80s baby growing up in the 90s like me, you've seen certainly worse. If you watched Raiders of the Lost Ark when you were a kid and you saw Indiana Jones mercilessly just shoot a dude in the chest because he didn't want to sword fight him, or he knocked that big dude through the propeller blade of the airplane when they were fist fighting and he got splattered with blood, you have seen worse. It's tough to gauge what parents are okay with nowadays with what letting their kids watch. And if you're in the chat, you can weigh in on this. Would you let your kids watch this? I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think there's far worse things that they could be seeing. There's some casual torture at the beginning, some comical torture, if you will. It's still torture. But all in all, these kids are now on more or less an adventure that they're just being led through, like a rail shooter. Are you familiar with rail shooters? Back in the day, you could play. It was like Area 51 at the theater. It was like a zombie shooter kind of deal, or alien, whatever you were shooting. You had a little light gun, but the game would lead you on a track through the game, and it would stop every now and then. And you could shoot. That's what's happening with these kids at this point, because ultimately they don't know how to fly their own vehicle. They don't know where they're at. They don't know where they came from. They don't know anything. But everyone else seems to have a little bit of idea as to who they are, or at least legends of where they came from. And that suspicion is confirmed because these kids, when they show up at the little pirate cove, they're paying with Old Republic credits, which apparently are worth a pretty penny. So Jude Law is seeing this as his payday, and they end up going to this character, little Owly here, a little bit on the nose, because this owl happens to know everything that's going on. By the way, Disney has done a very good job of preventing screen capturing, like a very good job. You can't just use standard issue Microsoft screenshots. It blacks out the screen. OBS, it even blacks out the screen if you try to pull up OBS. So I took this picture with my phone, and if you see lots of little green dots on it, that's because that's from when I splatter ink on my canvas and it hits my computer screen. My computer screen has ink splattered all over it. So this owl character, very on the nose, has all the inside information as to what's going on, has all the hyperspace routes, has all the information as to where their home planet could possibly be. And then they more or less head that way. All in all, not much happened this episode. They could have just as easily been like, I don't know, the space pirate says like, oh, hey, I know, we could go this way, or I know somebody could take us that way and get us closer, or I know exactly where that is, or where it should have been. But they end up with this out character. She calls the I don't know if it was like the Republic Guard or whatever it was, but effectively Jude Law has a bounty on his head, and not much happens. So it looks great. The visuals are great. The acting is about as good as it can be when you have kid actors and they're working with relatively flat material. But it's interesting to see all of the other uh, the grifters in the YouTube sphere that are like, "Is Star Wars back? It's not that bad. It's not that bad." As you know, Star Wars was dead, and maybe it's not dead anymore. Star Wars was never dead. Star Wars is going to do just fine. The series is going to do just fine. And just, there's not, I don't know. When you think back to all the movies that this tries to capture and emulate from, like the Goonies and all that, there are a lot more character moments where you really felt for these kids and the friendships that they had built. And instead, we're being just strung along. Again, I feel like this is a puppet show emulating all the things that nostalgia wise we grew up with. Um, I'm really hoping they get some good character moments, some good story, because right now it's just skipping along in a direction. Which unfortunately is I feel like that's how Star Wars has been since the sequel trilogies. I did like Kenobi, because there was especially seeing like young Leia and her interactions with Obi-Wan. I thought the girl that played her did really well. There's some decent stuff in Ahsoka. There's even some decent stuff in Acolyte, but this right now, it's like as far as these kids go, this dude's cool, but he just shows up and is angry. Um, at this point, the only character I like is Goggles Girl, and that's simply because she's capable of doing stuff. They had a they had a fighter like manning the laser turret moment where main character kid and this girl, so her, and then I think it's the last picture on here. This kid, they're both shooting at targets, and you're like, "Oh, hey, you stole my shot," and whatever. And like, okay, more nostalgia stuff. That's fine. That's fine. It's fun. Um, but I've got this feeling that it's gonna be another episode or two before I actually, I don't know, like any of these characters. Um, it seems like the only way that we can gauge how much we like these characters is how they're reacting to what's going on around them, and they're not doing much on their own. I don't know. I could be wrong. Jaleel has a small bit scene in this. Smee comes back to life. Neil is mostly worthless. He he could definitely be the Star Wars version of Arthur. Um, I need to get some updated pictures. At any rate, as far as my review goes, it was pretty mid. If you go to the other YouTuber guys, you'll probably find 1,000 different Easter eggs, probably 1,000 different references to things. Um, there's gonna be a lot of like Star Wars is back. It's like I don't know. I don't know. I This is gonna be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like they did the same thing with No Way Home with Spider-Man, and it was let's throw as much nostalgia and little cameos into one movie to try to lure everyone back to Marvel. I think the general audience has smelled blood in the water with Disney, and and for a number of reasons. Um, But I think this is them trying to do a cheap tactic to win people back. If you look at Andor, Andor was anything but that. If there were cameos, um, I couldn't tell you what they were. They did such a good job of that, of creating their own little story, their own little arc. And I mean, it really felt like there was like a weight to the actions going on. Like when that one single TIE fighter flies through the valley and everybody's freaking out because like crap, we could like get lit up or caught or whatever at any moment. It actually felt there were stakes. And there were moments of relief and there was moments of tension. This is yet to have that. Understandably, it's a different genre. Um, but let's boil it down. Would this be good for your kids? Your kids could watch this. And that's ultimately, I think that's what, unfortunately, I feel like that's what's come down to. Is I feel like with Star Wars, the live action stuff, there's been so many misses that it's like, hey, we'll make something for the kids. And then you can't get upset if you don't like it because it's for the kids. So, all in all, I think it's a decent introduction for younger audience. I'm hoping that Disney Lucasfilm brings it together and puts together some decent. So right now, I don't know. It looks great. It sounds great. Music was interesting on this one. I couldn't tell you what instruments that they were playing, but it seemed a bit more whimsical, if you will. So we'll see where it goes. That's all I have to say about all this. Art House Live will be on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be talking about, or was I? Columbus, GalaxyCon. And James, if he's able to make it, he's going to be talking about Steel City Con. We're going to be talking about what we got coming up through December. But guys, thanks for tuning in. I know this was a quick one. I just want to get my quick review up. All in all, it's Star Wars. It's more Star Wars. I'm still going to watch it. I feel like they could be doing so much better. But I don't know. There we go. Nice talking to you. We'll see you Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Bye-bye.